Hi, so this video is all about agreement and disagreement. And it's about developing your skills to be able to express the level of agreement or the level of disagreement that you have with a certain topic. And developing this skill will help you, firstly, to develop your English skills, but it will also help you to become a much more effective communicator, and it will help you with your interpersonal skills. You'll be able to contribute much more positively to discussions. You'll be able to engage with others in a really positive way and build relationships. You'll be able to navigate discussions and conflicts and negotiations and to reach a much more positive and more successful outcome. In short, you'll be able to do business much more effectively. So let's have a short example of this level of agreement and disagreement. And let's take a meeting situation, and there's a speaker in the meeting, and the speaker puts forward an opinion. This is speaker A, and speaker A thinks this is a good idea. I think the Alexandra Hotel is the best choice. Now, as speaker B, I can react to this statement in various ways, and this will have an effect on the way that the conversation and the discussion and the meeting goes on. So let's have a look at some alternatives for answers to this opinion. So speaker A thinks the Alexandra Hotel is a good idea. I think the Alexandra Hotel is the best choice. And speaker B agrees. I completely agree. The Alexandra Hotel offers the space and amenities we need for a successful event. So both speaker A and speaker B think that this is a good idea. And by speaker B expressing very, very clearly his or her complete agreement and giving the reasons for that agreement and adding to the argument, he or she indicates that there's no further discussion necessary. And this is very effective in a meeting situation, as it will allow you to close down this part of the discussion and move on to the next part. An alternative here would be speaker B saying, I partially agree. While cost saving is important, we should also consider the convenience and accessibility of the venue. So speaker A thinks the Alexandra Hotel is a good idea. Speaker B is not totally convinced and doesn't think it's the best idea. And again, by expressing this partial agreement, I partially agree, and giving the reasons for the partial agreement, and then also thinking about and stating very clearly what should also be considered, the speaker indicates that there's some further discussion necessary in the meeting. Speaker A, again giving the opinion of a good idea, I think the Alexandra Hotel is the best choice, and speaker B doesn't agree. Speaker A thinks it's a good idea, speaker B thinks it's a bad idea. Speaker B, I respect your point of view, but I disagree. The hotel does not have the capacity to accommodate all the participants comfortably, and parking could also be an issue. Now, by saying that he or she completely disagrees with the speaker A, he or she indicates that there's a lot of room for further discussion. Even though speaker B completely disagrees with speaker A, he doesn't close the conversation down or the discussion down, but shows respect to the other speaker and states this very, very firmly. So again, it's separating the people from the problem. So speaker B says, I respect your point of view, I respect you as a person, I respect that point of view, but these are the reasons I disagree with this issue. So these are some examples of the range of agreement and disagreement. So what is this range of agreement and disagreement? Well, I think it's really useful to think of it really in percentage terms. And we can think of agreement and disagreement of, well, 100% is complete and total agreement with something. And we can think of 0% of total and complete and absolute disagreement with something. And in between that, then we've got different levels of agreement and disagreement at different percentages. Now, being able to know, first of all, to listen to the other speaker, to assess the opinion, and then be able to assess where I stand on a certain issue. Do I have complete agreement, complete disagreement, or partial agreement or disagreement? Then I can contribute to the discussion, and I can state firmly where I lie on a certain issue. This allows me to open up discussions. I can contribute to the discussion, as we've seen. I can say the parts of some arguments that I agree with, and then open up the other parts where we need to discuss the parts that I have disagreement on. If I'm unable to express this range of agreement and disagreement, what my language will prompt me to do is to take extreme positions, and maybe my opinion lies somewhere in the middle of this, and I need to open up the discussion a little bit more. So being able to use this range of agreement and disagreement, it will help everybody concerned to reach better outcomes, to reach better decisions, and as I said before, to do better business. So what is this range of agreement and disagreement? Well, there are two aspects. First of all, I can show you a table that shows you language in a range from 0% to 100% and show you where language and phrases fits on this scale. The other part, as we've already discussed, is actually the skill of knowing and assessing where I stand on a certain issue, and then being able to use the right phrases and the right skills in order to express this level of agreement and disagreement. So let's have a look at a range of agreement and disagreement going from 100% to 0%. So at 100% I've got, I totally agree, I completely agree, I entirely agree, I fully agree. We're on the same page. We've both got exactly the same opinion. I couldn't agree more. And as I stated before, this kind of indicates that we don't need to have further discussion on this part of the issue. And then moving along maybe to 90%, 85%, I agree. I think so too. You're right. Coming down a little bit, I'm inclined to agree. I agree in principle. And then coming down to maybe 50-50. So again, we've got opening up the discussion and saying what it is I agree with, but what are the problems I have with certain issues. I've got mixed feelings. I can see both sides of the argument. To a certain extent, to a certain degree, I accept the point about, and then you say what you agree with, but, and then you show where the disagreement is and where the discussion needs to be. I partially agree, and I'm on the fence. Again, I'm 50-50, I'm in the middle. And then coming down to disagreement, so maybe at a level of 40%, so I somewhat disagree, I tend to disagree, I disagree with the general idea. So you're prompting the other people to give you the argument so you've got more room to agree with that person. I see your point, but I have reservations. While I disagree with some aspects, I can accept this point. And then moving along a little bit lower, I can see your point, but I'm not convinced. So I understand you. Again, showing respect to the other person. Respect for the person. You might disagree with the opinion, but you have respect for the person. I can see your point, or as in the circle here, with respect, respectfully. I mostly disagree. I'm not sure. And then showing that we have to talk a hell of a lot to find some, or explore some creative solutions to find a decision. I completely disagree. I disagree entirely. I don't agree at all. I cannot accept that at all. Let's have a look at these skills and phrases in action. The more that you practice these phrases and you practice the skills, the more that you will develop your English and you'll develop your skills as a communicator. So let's have a look at 5 more examples to give you a feel of how this range of agreement and disagreement works. Speaker A, we should focus completely on digital advertising. Speaker B, to a certain extent, I agree. Digital advertising is essential, but we shouldn't completely disregard other media. So thinking about the phrases that we've looked at, what's happening here? Well, Speaker B has used the phrase, to a certain extent, I agree. So it's around about 50-50 maybe. Speaker B has some agreement and shows that digital advertising is acceptable and it is essential, but also introduces at the same time a different perspective and opens up the discussion for talking about other media. Second example, Speaker A, we should prioritise price and offer discounts. Speaker B, I respectfully disagree. I think we should focus on highlighting the product's unique features and value. Reducing prices is the wrong approach. So Speaker B expresses disagreement, but expresses it respectfully. This will help to open up the door for further discussion. Speaker B gives his or her opinion and firmly states that he or she doesn't agree with Speaker A, and that we're going to have a lot of discussion to resolve the conflict. Or maybe by opening up the discussion again, we'll get a better solution or maybe a more creative solution. Speaker A, we're willing to collaborate on joint marketing efforts. Speaker B, that aligns perfectly with our goals. We're on the same page. So what Speaker B is doing here is stating very firmly that he or she is in total agreement. Because we're in agreement, we don't really need to have any further discussion about this. And we both know that we've got shared understanding and objectives. Speaker A, we expect a 20% discount. Speaker B, I appreciate the request and I can see your point, but a 20% discount is not feasible at the moment. However, a key word, however, we can explore other ways to add value. So Speaker B is again showing respect and showing that he or she understands Speaker A, but firmly says that there is substantial disagreement with Speaker A. But at the same time, and by using the word however, he or she is able to offer alternatives to open up the negotiation. Speaker A, we'd like a 3-year exclusivity agreement. Speaker B, I have mixed feelings about a 3-year agreement. We should discuss potential exceptions or a shorter agreement in case of unforeseen circumstances. Well, I've got mixed feelings. This is, if we go back to our range, it's around about 50-50. So Speaker B is not saying yes or no completely. It's saying I've got feelings on one side and I've got feelings on the other side. I'm opening up the discussion and I'm giving alternatives and I'm giving room for negotiations. So there could be exceptions to a 3-year agreement, or maybe we could look at 2 years or 1 year, a shorter agreement. So using the right phrases and using the right techniques, this shows that you have respect for others and you're considerate of others. You can appreciate other people's opinions and you can appreciate where they're coming, and you can express that you have different shades of agreement and disagreement. It's very easy, especially when we don't have the language, to take extreme points of view. If I firmly say, I strongly disagree with you, and I disagree with you, and I'm very firm in my body language and in my language and in my tone of voice about this can close down discussions. But if I'm able to look at an opinion and be able to show respect, and then be able to show the shade of disagreement or agreement that I have about something, then I'm able to open up this discussion and I allow room for much more compromise. I allow room for much more open discussion. I allow room for maybe much more creative solutions. And in the end, everybody becomes much happier with the situation, and we're doing much more successful business. So if you can express these levels of agreement and disagreement, it says quite a lot about you. It can show that you're open-minded and that you can consider different perspectives, and you can disagree with different aspects of different issues, even if you don't entirely agree with certain things. It shows that you can contribute positively, and it can show that you have deeper understanding of issues and that you've developed your critical thinking. It shows that you can listen to other people and you can show respect for other people, and it can make you appear quite professional, and being able to develop these skills will lead to your personal growth. And the way to develop these skills is firstly to practice the skills. To practice in every situation, whether this is in English or in your own language. Consider listening to people and consider where you stand on certain arguments and how you're going to communicate where you stand on certain arguments. Now, what I've got here are some different statements about different issues. And a first practice for you, in order to get to know these phrases and to think about using range of agreement and disagreement, is maybe to write down, to use the information that I've given you on the different phrases, and write down your level of agreement and disagreement with these statements, and to show, if you've got partial agreement, to show where you agree with certain things and where you disagree with certain things and where you think the further discussion should be. So let's have a quick look at these statements. English is the language of business and all companies should adopt it. It is acceptable to give gifts to customers and suppliers. Open space offices are more productive than individual offices. Finance is the most important department in any company. TV advertising is not the future. Market research only tells you about the past, and it is not useful for deciding future strategy. Your manager can never be your friend. Full-time study at university is no longer viable. I can only repeat, don't just do this exercise in your head, but if you really want to get to grips with the phrases and with the techniques and to develop your skills, I would actually, in the first instance, write down your answers to these statements. This is also another skill that you can use in your studies and you can use in exam situations, whether that is in speaking or in writing. Okay, so that's all I wanted to say in this video. Please have a look at all my other videos on Business English, have a look at my website, and please subscribe to the channel. Thank you for listening, and see you in the next one. Bye.